Greetings, people. This is a follow-on from my last video. I don't really want to talk about this, but I've been asked to. And it's just to help people understand their own situations with regard to trauma and how it affects you and how to get out of it and recognize it. So speaking about it is part of the process, and yeah, it's very deep because it's to do with my family, and a lot of people have wondered why I've walked away. Now I'm going to talk about some things about my life and my childhood that will probably give you a little bit of clarity as to why I've walked away. I've mentioned it in previous videos, but basically, where do you start, man? Growing up at, say, 3 months old, where my father was to babysit and supervise, and I broke my arm apparently as I fell off the couch. Now, what happens with that trauma is, although you're a baby, you still understand what's going on, you just can't speak. So the pain associated with that break and the arguing and fighting that followed builds a real toxic piece of trauma in your soul, and later on you have to clear that out and revisit it. So that's hence why we're talking about it now, because others may have had similar situations happen. So with all that yelling and screaming at that moment, I learned not to trust my father. So that skewers your perception of reality with regard to the masculine and the men in your life. It also affects the way you view the feminine and the women in your life. So that was the first at 3 months old. And then I think at 5, my brother, we were fighting as kids do, and I had my head rammed into the post and I got 5 stitches. And at that point, after not trusting the father or the brother, the masculine energy, nothing was spoken about it in my family. It was just swept under the rug, because my older brother was was put on the pedestal, so to speak. And so I learned not to trust anyone around me, and I built a wall of protection where I kept everything within. Although I observed everything and understood what was going on, I lost my voice in the process because I wasn't able to be heard, and no one would listen to my side of the story. There's another one there at about 4 years old where I accidentally dropped a rock on my twin brother's head, and that was never let go for years to come, where I was this vicious person that threw a rock at my brother. And that's just not who I am. But I was confused growing up because I didn't know, and I was labelled that, and it was projected onto me. So that trauma I carried. I mean, yeah, there are so many different scenarios growing up with siblings and parents and what have you, and you know, there are worse situations than mine, but I'm just speaking about this for others to understand how to get through it, because that's where you'll find your strength. And that's the silver lining. Apparently, we all decide what families we're born into to learn certain lessons, and one of mine was forgiveness. And I'm not good at that, but I've had to learn how to do that. And I think one of the most difficult things you'll ever find in your life is to forgive someone without an apology, because sometimes the person will never acknowledge what they've done wrong. So following my 3, 4, 5-year-old issues, there was another one that happened at 6 years old, where there was a friend of my mother's, and he was a really happy, fun guy, and he invited us down to the park, and we'd never ventured out that far from home before, and we just learned how to ride bikes. But I remember asking my mother, "Oh, can we go down and see so-and-so? He's at the park, da-da-da-da-da." And she stopped and paused and looked at me, and I'll never forget it. You don't when you're a kid. But she knew what was about to go down. And we rode off on our bikes. My brother was there, and he egged it all on. But this guy was just a pervert. And he had a camera, and he was doing the pervert thing, which is very confusing for you growing up. And from a spiritual standpoint, what that's doing is it's forming an attachment with another entity, a sexual entity. They call them sexual demons, and or lust demons, and these are very common, and I mean hugely common. I mean, the porn industry, for example, is filled with them, and it's like a Jezebel spirit, and it's very deceptive. And once that spirit attaches itself to you, for the rest of your life, you draw in other entities and other people carrying that spirit that try to carry out the same kind of things, abuse. So during my teen years, playing rugby, I found myself surrounded by coaches that were just deviants, and everywhere I've been for many years, there's just the deviant there that is attracted, and that's how the cycle of trauma continues down the bloodline. It's passed down. So if you have a grandmother or a grandfather that was abused in a certain way, and you didn't know, that spirit gets passed down through the bloodline into the children, and then the children's children, until someone heals it and removes the entity. So this is how it works, and traumas are something that we all are going to have to deal with in the coming cycle. It's everyone's being faced with having to deal with what's happened to them and who they really are. So, I mean, I was abandoned and betrayed by my family so deeply. I mean, it goes further with, like, my auntie. I remember when I was 4 and I tried to pick up one of their guitars, curious 4-year-old, and just snapped at. And it was just so negative and almost, scary. These are witches and warlocks, man. No shit. And then another time it must have been about 11. And my auntie came round and she visited me in my room and was attempting to teach or help me understand GST and tax. And I couldn't figure it out. But in the middle of the conversation and misunderstanding, she just gets up and leaves the room. So that's, as subtle as it is, it's very disturbing because it leaves you with doubt, and it's done deliberately by the spirits within these people. So you are blocked, and it's vicious, and it truly is an evil thing. And people think evil is just in the movies and the serial killers and stuff, but no, it's all around us. So I walked away from my family because of the toxicity right across it, and it's just bizarre because the greed and the jealousy that is, I want to believe it's unconscious to them, but possibly not, because it's the spirit of jealousy and greed that operates through them. So until they become aware and awake That's who they are. And so when I speak about shadow work, it's about facing the fact that you were greedy or you are jealous, and that you need to fucking acknowledge that so you can release it. And that's the cycle of trauma and shadow work that I mention a lot. A lot of people don't know about this. So, I mean, my twin brother, he would sit on the fence, so he never really took sides. But my older brother was just a devil, and he's going to pay for it, and it's got nothing to do with me, and I've forgiven him. But what he's done to me is heavy. The theft, the abuse, the belittling, trying to dominate, blocking opportunities. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And it's not normal behavior. It's just swept under the rug. And my family was swept under the rug, and it was all just giggle, giggle, giggle. Oh, we just got him. I mean, there was a situation where, I'm pretty strong. And my twin brother got me to a point where I snapped, and I fucking slapped him around a bit. And we got home, and he told Dad, and Dad was like, "Oh, did you get him? Did you? Oh, yeah, he lost it." Oh, and it was all a big fucking hoo-ha, like an achievement of some sort, and it gets deeper than that when you talk, about families that look really upright from the outside, the way they behave, the way they dress, but really it's fucking toxic. I mean, my mother could say, "Oh, well, I love him and I was always there for him." No, she wasn't. She was never there. She was emotionally manipulating me. She was jealous. Imagine your mother being jealous of you, your mother, and turning your brothers against you, who then become jealous. I mean, this is the truth. It's not like I'm trying to be a victim or anything, but that's what it was, and I couldn't see it. And that's why I walked away. I fucking ran away. But it only happened way later on in my life. I mean, I was about to get married, and I found a girl, and it was only when my parents visited in LA, when they sat down for dinner, that I saw the same spirit in my girl that was in my mother. And I was just like, what the fuck? And I was like, this ain't gonna happen. And then I looked at my brother's wives, and both of them, the same entity, the same spirit, alcoholism, narcissism, covert narcissism, where the world revolves around them and only them, and they don't acknowledge any part of you or your achievements. I mean, I'm the only one in my family that graduated with 2 degrees. No one turned up to my graduation. No photos. None of my certificates were framed or put on the wall, proud of their son kind of thing. And I was so conditioned at that point, it didn't even occur to me. I just went along because I had nothing but love for them. And it's just fucking wrong on so many levels. And I understand and sympathize with a lot of people that leave home at 16. I just wish I had done so myself sooner. I'd be a lot further along. But this is how it works, the process. You work your way through it. And on the outside, a lot of the friends and family, other friends, seeing how my parents were together, it just looks like so perfect. But they're just hiding. Don't get me wrong, I love my family, but I have to look at the silver lining. The silver lining is that I've gained incredible strength. I've also gained incredible discernment. I can now see and hear from different tones and how people speak as to what they really mean and what they're trying to